in the remote and untouched mountains of Nagaland, where the peaks rise like ancient guardians of the earth and the air is thick with the scent of pine and wildflowers, there was an ancient village hidden from the rest of the world. This village, nestled in the valley between two towering cliffs, was not like any other. It was a place where time seemed to stand still. The villagers, bound to the rhythms of nature, lived simple lives. Their homes were built from wood and stone, sturdy and weathered by time, just as their ancestors had lived for generations. They spoke little, but when they did, their words were full of respect for the land that nourished them, for the rivers that ran through their hearts, and for the mountains that stood as silent witnesses to their existence. Among the villagers, there was one who was the object of admiration and reverence, a maiden named Long Conla. From the moment she was born, it was clear that she was no ordinary girl. Her beauty was so mesmerizing that even the wild animals of the forest would stop in their tracks to gaze at her as she passed. She was known not just for her external appearance, but for the way she carried herself, with an elegance that seemed to flow from the earth itself. She was part of the land, and the land was part of her. Her hair, dark as the night, flowed like a river over her back, and her eyes, like twin stars, sparkled with a wisdom that far surpassed her years. Long Conla spent much of her time alone in the forests, communing with the trees and the rivers, listening to the ancient songs of the earth. She knew the language of the wind and the whispers of the mountains. Her heart, though tender and kind, was bound to the land that nurtured her. My heart belongs to the mountains, to the rivers, and to the land, she would often say with a serene smile. It is not meant for any man. Though many of the young men of the village admired her, no one dared to approach her with their feelings, for they knew that her heart belonged not to them, but to the untamed wilderness. There was, however, one who could not forget her, whose heart was torn between desire and despair. His name was Al. A hunter by trade, Al was known throughout the land for his strength, courage, and unmatched skill with a bow and arrow. His presence was commanding, and his reputation was that of a man who could conquer any challenge that stood before him. But despite his outward confidence, Al was consumed by a secret. He had fallen deeply in love with Long Conla. From the first moment he saw her, Al was entranced by her beauty, her grace, and the way she seemed to exist in perfect harmony with nature. She was not like the other women of the village, who sought the approval of men or the comforts of a hearth. Long Conla was a wild spirit, free and untouchable. Al had watched her for weeks from the shadows, his heart aching with longing, yet he could never bring himself to speak to her. He felt as though he were a mere mortal, too insignificant to even approach such a majestic being. Day after day, Al followed her silently through the woods, his steps light and cautious as he admired her from a distance. He would watch as she moved gracefully through the trees, her fingers brushing the leaves, speaking softly to the wind as though she were one with the earth itself. The forest seemed to bend to her will, the birds singing louder when she passed, and the breeze growing gentler. But no matter how hard he tried, Al could never find the courage to speak to her. Over time, his feelings grew stronger, but so did his sense of hopelessness. How could he, a mere hunter, ever hope to win the heart of someone so deeply connected to the land? Long Congla's heart was like the mountains, firm, unyielding, and beyond his reach. Yet Al could not let go of his desire. He could not accept that his love would never be returned. So, after much internal conflict and turmoil, Al decided to take action. He would win her heart, no matter the cost. One day, after spending days weaving an intricate basket from vines and threads, Al decided that he would offer it to Long Conla as a token of his love. The basket was a masterpiece, each thread carefully chosen, each pattern woven with intention. Al believed that this gift, this physical representation of his devotion, would be enough to win her heart. When he found Long Conla sitting by the river, as she often did, her eyes closed in quiet contemplation, Al approached her with trembling hands, holding the basket out to her. "Long Conla," he said, his voice shaking with nervousness, "I have made this for you, with my own hands. Please accept it, as a symbol of my admiration and my love for you." Long Conla looked up at him, her eyes soft with kindness but distant. She accepted the basket but did not meet his gaze. Al, she said gently, her voice as calm as the river. This is a beautiful gift, and I am grateful for your kindness. But you must understand that my heart belongs to the mountains, to the rivers, and to the land. It is not meant for any man. I cannot return your feelings, no matter how much you wish it. Al's heart shattered in that moment. Her words were like daggers, cutting through the very essence of his being. He had longed for her, dreamed of her, and now his hopes had been crushed. But even as the pain of rejection washed over him, Al refused to accept it. He could not bear the thought of losing her. So, driven by a desperate desire to make her love him, Al sought out the wisdom of an elder who lived deep in the forest, far from the village. The elder was known for his deep understanding of the spirits of the mountains and the rivers, and it was said that he could call upon these ancient forces to grant wishes. When Al found the elder, the wise man listened carefully to his plight. Al, the elder said with a solemn expression, you are about to embark on a dangerous path. The spirits of this land are not to be trifled with. Love that is forced is not true love, and to seek it through magic will come at a great cost. I warn you, the price for tampering with fate is more than you are prepared to pay. But Al was blinded by his desire. He could not accept rejection, not when his heart ached so fiercely. He begged the elder for a way to win Longkongla's love, and despite the elder's warnings, the man reluctantly told him of a place high in the mountains where the spirits of the land could be found. These spirits, ancient and powerful, could grant any wish, but the cost would be steep. Al, filled with determination, ventured into the mountains, climbing higher than he had ever dared before. The air grew thin and the winds howled, but he pressed on, driven by his desire to have Longkongla's love. Finally, after days of arduous travel, he reached the summit, where the air was thick with the power of the spirits. The winds carried whispers in languages unknown, and the earth beneath him seemed to pulse with an ancient energy. There, standing before him in the mist, the spirits appeared. They were not like the beings of flesh and bone, but rather ethereal forms, their eyes glowing with ancient knowledge. They spoke in voices that echoed through the mountains, their words heavy with foreboding. What is it that you seek, mortal? The spirits asked, their voices like the rumbling of distant thunder. Al, trembling with both fear and hope, fell to his knees. I seek Longkongla's love, he said, his voice raw with emotion. Please, grant me her heart. I will pay any price. The spirits studied him, their eyes unreadable, before they spoke again. Love that is taken is not true love, they said. What you ask for comes at a cost, one that you may not be able to bear. The price for this wish is not your life, but the very soul of the one you seek. You will take her freedom, and in doing so, you will bring ruin to the land she loves. But Al, desperate and consumed by his love, refused to listen. I am willing to pay any price, he said, his voice firm. Please, grant me this wish. The spirits agreed, but their warning lingered in the air like an omen. The next day, Long Conla felt a strange pull toward Al, an inexplicable change in her heart. Though she did not understand it, she found herself spending more time with him, her feelings shifting in ways she could not explain. But as the days passed, Al began to notice a change in her. Her eyes, once bright with life, now seemed dim, and her spirit felt distant. The land around them began to mirror her decline. The rivers began to dry up, the trees withered, and the animals fled. Al's heart filled with dread as he realized the cost of his wish. He had not won her love. He had stolen it. And in doing so, he had cursed the land and Longkongla's soul. Filled with regret, Al returned to the mountains, begging the spirits to undo what he had done. But the spirits, cold and unmoving, answered, "What has been done cannot be undone." Broken and lost, Al returned to the village, but he could not face Longkongla. The once vibrant, radiant maiden had become a shell of herself, her spirit gone, and her body bound to a life she had never chosen. In time, Longkongla disappeared into the mountains, never to be seen again, leaving behind only the barren land, now devoid of life. Her name is now whispered on the winds that blow through the mountains, a warning to those who seek to force fate and challenge the will of the spirits.